In 1998, the release of first-person shooter Half-Life sent a seismic shock across the world of video games. It featured cinematic storytelling, taut action sequences, and some of the creepiest bad guys ever to grace a video game.
Well, let's just say your hour has come again.
I remember when Half-Life came out, November 1998, a massive moment in PC gaming. Before then, it had been Doom that had defined shooter games. Half-Life reset the bar.
A sequel followed in 2004. Fans patiently awaited new Half-Life content, but its makers, a company called Valve, went very quiet on the Half-Life front. Until now, that is. Mark Chislak has been to Valve's headquarters in the US, where he's got his hands on their latest addition to the franchise, a game which has surprised many by embracing virtual reality.
Bellevue, Washington is home to Valve Software, an award-winning games development company. It has plans to reinvigorate virtual reality with Half-Life's help. A title which changed games forever.
Hey, Mr. Freeman. I had a bunch of messages for you, but we had a system crash about...
The first Half-Life I played was probably the second one, before going back to the first one. But both of them start on a train journey going in, and you're being introduced to the world as the train does. As you enter the game, you're seeing everything that's going on in the world, and you're slowly being immersed in it.
I played the first Half-Life like not long after it came out.
Current topside temperature is 93 degrees.
There's something about having glimpses of set pieces that you never fully get up close to in games that somehow just accelerates the world building by 1,000%. Like the knowledge that you may not have even seen it, I think is brilliant.
Sector C test labs and controls.
Like the idea that on a second playthrough or a third, you can see something you didn't see the first time around. And even then, it's like just by chance, it was going on outside a window, and if you'd looked to the right, you'd have seen a different set piece.
Morning, Mr. Freeman. Looks like you're running late.
Everyone has been so excited by the idea of a new Half-Life game for years. You know, the first one gave us such a new cinematic way of experiencing a game. The second one, it handed us the gravity gun. We had much more puzzling. We had much more storytelling.
My God, we made it.
And it's almost become a kind of joke over the last 13 years of Half-Life 3 announced, because Valve has always kind of teased that something would come. There's lots of rumours, everyone wanted something new, but now finally being told that we've got something in that universe, it's a whole new full-length story, people are really, really excited.
Set before the events of Half-Life 2, the player assumes the role of Alyx Vance, a resistance fighter struggling to rescue her scientist father in City 17, the centre of an extra-dimensional invasion of the Earth.
All this is my fault.
There's been a lot of hype and high hopes around the rebirth of virtual reality. VR headsets have arrived from a variety of different companies, but in recent years, interest in the technology has waned. Virtual reality, it seems, is lacking a killer app. That, however, could be about to change. It's probably fair to say that a new Half-Life game will be one of the most keenly anticipated titles of the last decade. But is making it a virtual reality only title a way of shifting VR headsets?
I mean, this is a way to sell VR headsets. The minute you put a Half-Life game on VR, it's going to make people buy something or potentially look into buying something that they hadn't had before. But it's not just available on Valve's headset, it is available everywhere. So what this will do is potentially reinvigorate and kickstart everyone's interest in the entire VR space.
One of our goals here was to hopefully show a bunch of people who have looked at VR and thought it looks interesting, but not yet hasn't convinced them yet that, oh, there's an experience over there they really want. Hopefully they will see this and say, you know what, actually I will go check that out.
This is the moment that I have been waiting for. It's been 16 years since Half-Life 2 was released and 13 years since we've had any new Half-Life content. Right now, I'm going to try out the latest game in the series in virtual reality. I'm playing using Valve's own VR hardware called Index. The controllers feature sensors which translate my hand and finger movements. This will allow me to interact with the game world in much the same way as I would in the real world. Here we've got an opportunity to try out some of the gameplay mechanics. So we have the gravity gloves, which should allow me to pull this and grab it, throw it towards one of those barnacles, let the barnacle eat it. When you see items, you can grab them with the gravity gloves, catch them, store them in your backpack for later. The title has been designed to work with a wide variety of different VR headsets. But the game's demanding technical specifications means that it will have to run on a pretty high-end PC. The full Index VR setup like this one isn't cheap either, costing nearly £1,000. I can't open these doors, they're jammed. Ah, it opens up for me. Here we go. Almost everything you interact with in the game works like it does in the real world. Everything apart from travel.
Getting around turns out to be one of the more interesting things in virtual reality. It's one of the trickier problems to solve. And so many things that are local scale allow you to just use your body in a natural way, like I'm going to pick up a bucket to look at what's underneath it. Traversing space doesn't quite yet allow you to use your body in that way. So solving that for players is one of the more interesting things about virtual reality. We've chosen to provide a variety of methods. There are a couple different styles of teleportation, and then a more traditional movement that is we call continuous motion. And some people are more comfortable with one than another.
I've got a room full of head crabs here, room full of zombies. Let's see if there's any extra ammo in here, because I have a feeling I am going to need it pretty soon. This title is unusual for VR because there's about 15 to 16 hours worth of gameplay, much longer than a lot of virtual reality titles. Let's get rid of this barricade, pull it out of the way. This is genuinely extremely tense. Okay, well I need new underwear. This adds an entirely new dimension to video game combat, one of absolute pant-wetting fear. The big question is, will this game be the one that persuades more people to invest in virtual reality?
There's a real chance that half of Alyx is going to be a killer app for virtual reality in 2020. In part that's because it represents the return of one of the most acclaimed series in gaming, but it's also down to the fact there aren't a lot of developers making this kind of blockbuster experience of VR right now. Half-Life Alyx might not push virtual reality into mainstream by itself, but it could persuade a new wave of developers to start working on similar experiences of VR, and that would be huge.
I think the only game that could potentially sway me and make me want to get some VR and play it is a Valve game. The only downside is that I have to wander around my living room in fear of my wife walking in on me pretending to smash up some Combine officers with a crowbar.
I'm with you every step of the way.
We'll find out what kind of impact Half-Life Alyx has when it releases on March the 23rd.